कसम की कसम चुमरी तल्ले या लो आ गए कचरा बीनने वाले.
In this module, we will be studying about the import procedure. Import trade refers to purchase of goods from a foreign country. Import procedure differs from country to country, depending upon the country's import and custom policies and other statutory requirements. Let us discuss various steps involved in a typical import transaction for bringing goods into Indian territory. The first step is trade inquiry. The first thing that the importing firm has to do is to gather information about the countries and firms which export the given product. Having identified the countries and firms that export the product, the importing firm approaches the export firms with the help of a trade inquiry for collecting information about their export prices and terms of exports. After receiving a trade inquiry, the exporter prepares a quotation and sends it to the importer. The quotation is known as pro forma invoice. A pro forma invoice is a document that contains details as to the quality, grade, design, size, weight, and price of the export product and the terms and conditions on which their export will take place. Next step is procurement of import license. There are certain goods that can be imported freely, while others need licensing. The importer needs to consult the export-import acing policy in force to know whether the goods that he or she wants to import are subject to import licensing. In case goods can be imported only against a license, the importer needs to procure an import license. In India, it is obligatory for every importer and also for exporter to get registered with Directorate General Foreign Trade, DGFT, or Regional Export-Import Licensing Authority and obtain an Import-Export Code, IEC number. This number is required to be mentioned on most of the import documents. Next step is that of obtaining foreign exchange. Since the supplier in the context of an import transaction resides in a foreign currency, payment in foreign currency involves exchange of Indian currency into foreign currency. In India, all foreign exchange transactions are regulated by the Exchange Control Department of the Reserve Bank of India, RBI. As per the rules in force, every importer is required to secure the sanction of foreign exchange. The next step is placing order or indent. After obtaining the import license, the importer places an import order or indent with the exporter for supply of the specified products. The import order contains information about the price, quantity, size, grade, and quality of goods ordered, and the instructions related to packing, shipping, ports of shipment and destination, delivery schedule, insurance, and mode of payment. The next step is obtaining letter of credit. If the payment terms agreed between the importer and the overseas supplier is a letter of credit, then the importer should obtain the letter of credit from its bank and forward it to the overseas supplier. As stated previously, a letter of credit is a guarantee issued by the importer's bank that it will honor payment up to a certain amount of export bills to the bank of the exporter. Next step is arranging for finance. The importer should make arrangements in advance to pay to the exporter on arrival of goods at the port. Advanced planning for financing imports is necessary so as to avoid huge demurrages, that is penalties, on the imported goods lying uncleared at the port for want of payments. The next step is receipt of shipment advice. After loading the goods on the vessel, the overseas supplier dispatches the shipment advice to the importer. A shipment advice contains information about the shipment of goods. The information provided in the shipment advice includes details such as invoice number, bill of lading or airways bill number and date, name of the vessel with date, the port of export, description of goods and quantity, and the date of sailing of vessel. The next step is retirement of import documents. Having shipped the goods, the overseas supplier prepares prepares a set of necessary documents as per the terms of contract and letter of credit and hands it over to his or her banker for their onward transmission and negotiation to the importer in the manner as specified in the letter of credit. The set of documents normally contain bill of exchange, commercial invoice, bill of lading or airway bill, packing list, certificate of origin, marine insurance policy, etc. The bill of exchange accompanying the above documents is known as the documentary bill of exchange. The next step is arrival of goods. Goods are shipped by the overseas supplier as per the contract. The person in charge of the carrier, ship or airway informs the officer in charge at the dock or the airport about the arrival of goods in the importing country. He provides the document called Import General Manifest. Import General Manifest is the document that contains the details of the imported goods. It is a document on the basis of which unloading of cargo takes place. Final step is the customs clearance and release of goods. All the goods imported into India have to pass through customs clearance after they cross the Indian borders. Customs clearance is a somewhat tedious process and calls for completing a number of formalities. It is therefore advised that importers appoint C and F agents who are well versed with such formalities and play an important role in getting the goods customs cleared. Firstly, the importer has to obtain a delivery order, which is otherwise known as endorsement for delivery. Generally, when the ship arrives at the port, the importer obtains the endorsement on the back of the bill of lading. This endorsement is done by the concerned shipping company. In some cases, instead of endorsing the bill, the shipping company issues a delivery order. This order entitles the importer to take the delivery of goods after paying the freight charges. The importer has to also pay dock dues and obtain port trust dues receipt. For this, the importer has to submit to the Landing and Shipping Dues Office 2 copies of a duly filled in form known as application to import. The Landing and Shipping Dues Office levies a charge for services of dock authorities which has to be borne by the importer. After payment of dock charges, the importer is given back 1 copy of the application as a receipt. This receipt is known as Port Trust Dues Receipt. The importer then fills in a form, Bill of Entry, for assessment of customs import duty. One appraiser examines the document carefully and gives the examination order. The importer procures the said document prepared by the appraiser and pays the duty, if any. After payment of the import duty, the bill of entry has to be presented to the dock superintendent. The same has to be marked by the superintendent, and an examiner will be asked to physically examine the goods imported. The examiner gives his report on the bill of entry. The importer or his agent presents the bill of entry to the port authority. After receiving necessary charges, the port authority issues the release order.
कुछ और पूछना है? काफी है, बस हो गया डुस। और कोई कहानी? और कोई कहानी? पक्का क्लियर है? समझ में आया कि नहीं आया? चिंगम खा रहा है?